Hey guys, Alex here with Armadillo Armament, and today we are talking about Impact Machine and their red dot cup they provided on my TRP full rail 5-inch 1911. Now, I posted a couple of different places on 1911 Addicts on my YouTube channel. I've mentioned the fact that the red dot cup wasn't the greatest. I've seen comments come in and I've responded to them and given my honest opinion on their system and the product I received. And today we're going to be making a video kind of highlighting all that. Every once in a while I aim to make videos like these. A lot of my videos are pretty positive, but some of them are very negative. Now, if you don't hate me already, go watch my Dan Wesson video or my Alchemy Quantico high cap video, and you'll see a lot of people that really disagree with me. A lot of really stupid people in those comments. Today is going to be one of those videos. I'm going to keep it really brief, giving you guys an outline of what happened with this 1911 and why I really don't recommend Impact Machine whatsoever. So let's just jump straight into the video. I have a little list here. On April 13th, I made a order with Impact Machine after speaking with the owner of the business, or one of the people that work there. And that was to mill this TRP operator 5-inch with full rail, kind of a very classic and kind of like sought after 1911. It's not, it is kind of built off the line, but at the same time, it is more rare. So I want to, have good work done to it. And this is kind of going to be a project gun. But for the low price of $356 after a $89 discount. That is pretty obscene, and that's going to be a very important part of this video. Is just that we are talking about real, high dollar amounts here. Wager Machine will cut your Glock for, $100-$150 and do a really, really, really good job. If I haven't talked about him enough already. The fact that this was almost $400 is pretty criminal. So out the gate, $350, which will get you a, police trading Glock. I understand work isn't cheap, guys, right? And good work isn't cheap. But $356, I expect a really good product, and I'll discuss that more as time goes on here. I spoke with the owner of the company, and prior to doing that, I was going to be using Chambers Custom. If you go back in my videos, you'll see that I mentioned it, I think, in the original video. I wanted to use Chambers Custom, but the guy, I think it was Brandon, I didn't end up going with him because he said he was going on a little bit of a vacation, and it was going to take him, an additional 2+ weeks to do my gun, so probably about a month. And I was like, I'd rather just go with Impact Machine. They said they'll get it done in a week, right? They said they'll get it done in, a week. And I said, okay. They gave me a little bit of trust there. All a conversation over the phone. On June 4th, a bunch of time had passed. On June 4th, I requested a ETA request, right? Hey guys, where's my slide? And I'm gonna be putting pictures on the screen right now. Some people may say that I was being rude. I don't believe so. I think I had waited way long enough, and I kindly requested a ETA of that product. And I got a response back that night saying, that we shipped it today, man, in a very rude fashion. I had been very patiently waiting. And the night before, I sent a couple messages because I'll be putting pictures on the screen now. I couldn't get a hold of them. Even though I tried to call them at the number I reached previously and then send them emails, I finally had to reach out to them on Instagram and type up this message that once again is on the screen throughout the video. And I finally get a response back after waiting, and I hear, "It's shipped today, man," right? In a really condescending way, and that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but maybe he was tired. I received the gun. And I quickly noticed that my front iron sight hadn't been changed. And I will put a picture on the screen now of that interaction, telling him that my iron sight wasn't changed. And this was a almost $370 service. I kind of expect you to take care of very basic things like the order, especially waiting, 7 weeks. I expect it to be perfect when it comes in. So he then tells me, and I'll be putting pictures on the screen now, that I need to go to the range. I need to fire the gun. I need to, test the point of impact and the point of aim shift, and then use this Dawson calculator. To which I say, that's craziness, right? That's a bunch of BS. I'm not making a custom iron sight here. You guys are installing this front sight, and this was optics forward, or the irons forward in front of the optic. You guys are installing this with a CNC machine. You have dimensions, you have specifications. Figure it out. Don't send me to the range to figure out, point of aim, point of impact shifts, and use a calculator and figure out what iron sight you should order. This is a package on your website for $400. Figure it out. So I finally got through to him in these messages that, no, man, take it back and do it, right? I gave you almost $400 to do this. And so they take the slide back. And on June 19th, he finally sends me the return label. So 2 days later, which was pretty frustrating. They didn't want to send it to me on a weekend, I guess. 2 days later, I finally get the return label. And I send the gun back that day, at least to my knowledge that day. Now, over the next, week or two, up until the 26th, we had maintained very light communication. Him sending me a picture of the iron sight, and I said it looks good, which I just wanted to be nice. I don't want him to spit on my slide. But I finally get the slide back on the 26th, and hey, lo and behold, the iron is there. The front iron is there. So they did, the bare minimum. So at this point, I hadn't gone to the range and I hadn't shot it, these critiques are much less important, but I went to the range and I shot it, and the rear iron was completely off to the point where I had to take essentially a brass punch and, knock it back and forth. There's a screw right here. So this was kind of Loctited in. I had to knock it back and forth and get it into place, which I kind of expect you guys to do that. I sent it with the optic because they said they would install the optic. If you're installing iron sights, I expect the iron sights to be reasonably on. Otherwise, I wouldn't ask you to install iron sights. I could do that myself, right? So they didn't do that. The iron sight, the rear sight was completely off, by, I think, more than like a foot at 7 yards. It was very much shifted, I think, to the left, I believe. And unfortunately, I really kind of marred it up, and that's my fault, but I was using a brass punch. I didn't mar it, but I scratched it up and I got brass on it. So now I just painted over it with Sharpie, and, carbon has just kind of gotten in there. So it doesn't look half bad, but, I had to kind of mess up a gun that I want to keep looking good, all because you didn't do your job, right? And all the boomers can go in and defend that and say, oh, you can't do iron sights yourself. No, I can. I'm just, I'm not a trained professional. All in all, that took 8 weeks and 1 day for me to receive my slide back, when it was originally quoted to me to get back in a week or two. And guys, 8 weeks to CNC the top of a slide is just absolutely abhorrent. It's obscene. Wager Machine can kick these out in about a week. ZNR Tactical, which is a company I'll probably use in the future because they don't have any negative reviews, and they have a very quick turnaround time. They get these done in a week. Many companies will get, very similar things done in a week or a couple days. Wager is like the next day. Why are companies out there, not just Impact Machine, that take, 12 weeks or 6 months to do a slide? That's baloney. No other industry does that. I have a lot of different hobbies. I have no other hobbies that are anywhere near as annoying as the gun industry. And I think it's just because they've gotten very pompous and lazy and, privileged, I guess, over time, that they can't do anything wrong. They can take as much time as they want and charge obscene prices because, we're buying 1911s. And I'm not going to stand for that. So I received that after 8 weeks and 1 day. And, I'm not the most happy with the product as well. First of all, the iron sight was completely off, and I'll put a picture on the screen. If you look at the finishing, you will see that the normal Springfield finishing is immaculate. It is, just perfect. It's all one color. There are no, spots. Whereas this finishing, the slide finishing, first of all, it is not the same color. I spoke with him over the phone and he said that was the best color match. And, it does match from afar, right? If I put it back here, it's the same color. But really, the Springfield is a little bit more, gray, and it's all the exact same color. Whereas this is, I guess, more of a black, I'd say, but it's also a little bit more splotchy. Now you can also look in the serrations. And yep, so you see that? You see how these serrations have very minor, cosmetic defects. The paint wasn't applied properly. And once again, this was a $50 red dot cut, I wouldn't care. If it was a $100 Wager Machine red dot cut, I wouldn't care. And he does better work. But we're talking $356 and 8 weeks. 8 weeks and 1 day. So, Anyway, long story short, I don't recommend Impact Machine, and I'll definitely never be using them again. I highly recommend you stay clear. Maybe check out ZNR Tactical. I think Chambers Custom is apparently like the GOAT. I recommend you use him. I can't say for certain I'll use him in the future, but you know, definitely don't use Impact Machine. And they have a very strong social media presence. It looks like they mainly work on CZs, which is really funny because every one of their pictures are CZs that are just like bright colors and they look disgusting and super fucking ugly. But hey, that's CZ people for you. And every one of them, you know, they look like they're safe queens, right? Whereas with me, I go out and I shoot my guns, and I know I'm complaining about cosmetic things, but you know, I want to make those cosmetic dings and damages to my gun. I don't want a company to do it. And then I notice when your iron sight is off. And I notice when a gun is out of my hands for 8 weeks in one day. And that's really where my problems come in. So guys, don't support Impact Machine. I don't recommend you use them. If you want to use Impact Machine, you know, they'll technically get the job done after, you know, a quarter of a year. But I'll definitely never be using them again. So thanks for tuning into the video. If you made it this far, check out Red Pond Shop. For every single item in your order, he will plant a tree and remove a pound of junk from the ocean. And he'll give you a really cool armadillo with quad nods and MCXs. And it supports me. If you use code armadillo, you get 5 to 10% off your order, and I'll get a small kickback. That being said, guys, thanks for tuning in. Another video later this week, and I'll catch you in the next one.